Let's talk about internal diversification versus external diversification. So whenever we're investing, we want to make sure that our portfolio is diversified. If we don't diversify our portfolio, we actually increase the amount of risk that we're taking on. We don't want to take on too much risk. In fact, we want to limit the amount of risk that we're taking on as investors in order to preserve the profits that we've already made. That means that as our portfolio grows, especially as we grow further and further, maybe into the 6 and 7 figures, maybe 8 figures, right? We want to make sure that our portfolio is very, very well balanced. And one of the advanced strategies that I use to balance my portfolio is a combination between external diversification plus internal diversification. So external diversification typically looks like balancing your portfolio across several different industries. A good example might be if I'm invested into real estate, I'm also going to invest into an unrelated industry like e-commerce, right? Because the performance of my e-commerce stores, whether it's Walmart or Amazon or Shopify, it's not really related to the performance of my real estate. My overall long-term rentals are not affected too much by how my e-commerce stores are doing. My Airbnbs are not affected by how my e-commerce stores are doing. These are unrelated industries that give me external diversification. External diversification is very, very important in the overall picture. You know, sometimes people invest into stuff like stocks, right? So they're heavily invested into stocks and they're also invested into real estate. Now, these tend to kind of correlate with each other. You know, if the economy crashes very, very aggressively, a lot of times real estate will crash with it. There's strong correlation there. And so we don't want to invest into too many industries like that are super heavily correlated because, yeah, you double up on your wins when everything is going well. However, if they crash, they tend to crash together. However, if you diversified maybe into precious metals and you diversified into cryptocurrency, and you know, you were mining Bitcoin here and you had an oil well here and you had an exotic car being rented out and you're part owner of a jet that's being chartered, right? You have all these different things that you're doing. Well, now you're pretty well diversified. Now you're investing into all these different things and you're limiting your exposure to each one, which means that your maximum risk is very little. It's not likely that all your investments are going to fail at the same time. In fact, my rule of thumb is to have at least 7 different income streams. Try to diversify them externally as much as you can to make sure that they're unrelated, first of all, but they're also balanced in such a way where you're dipping into different aspects of the market, which could produce good returns, but also limit your risk in each one. So that's external diversification. Now, when it comes to internal diversification, that's basically like us zooming in into one of these industries. So, okay, you mentioned real estate. You know, one of the things that I'm investing into in real estate is long-term rentals. We have 5 long-term rentals and I have 5 Airbnbs. And I also have, you know, a timeshare that I like to rent out, right? So these are just different diversification strategies. So let's say all of a sudden there's a ban on Airbnbs. A couple of years ago, nobody was allowed to use Airbnb. Well, what do you think happened to all these Airbnb owners? They experienced a very tough time. So everybody turned to more long-term rentals. Now, what do you think happened to me, the investor who had 5 long-term rentals, 5 Airbnb rentals, and then even some timeshares on top of that? I was doing just fine because my timeshares were doing well, because my long-term rentals were doing well. Yeah, my Airbnbs got hit a little bit, but because I'm internally diversified within that niche, that real estate sector of my portfolio, overall, my portfolio still did exceptionally well because the other sectors did well, first of all. But second of all, because my loss was so limited in real estate that it's even diversified within that industry, within that sector of my portfolio. We like to make sure that we're investing into things that produce such a high profit that even if we totally miss, we at least still make a little bit of money, right? If we invest into Airbnbs, we might look into something that's producing 2 to 3 times what we're paying for it. So if I'm doing Airbnb arbitrage, and let's say I'm just renting the house for very simple numbers, $1,000 a month. This would be a very tough example to actually find, but just to keep the math simple. And then on top of that, I'm renting it out nightly for maybe, I don't know, $100 a night. So if I have 75% occupancy, which is I believe 23 nights a month, that means I should be making around $2,300, right? So I'm making more than twice my payment. So my payment is covered. On top of that, I'm making such a massive profit that even if I like totally missed and didn't make anywhere near the amount that I expected to make, first of all, the previous months were so profitable that I didn't experience a net loss. But second of all, even if I totally missed on that projection, I'm still profitable. Maybe not as profitable as I initially expected to be, but it's still a profitable investment for me overall. And that's all that matters. That's internal diversification. Another way you could internally diversify your portfolio is, for example, if you're invested in cryptocurrency. Within the cryptocurrency sector of my entire portfolio, I'm not just invested in Bitcoin. I'm not just invested in Ethereum. I'm diversified across multiple different currencies because I understand that, hey, if Bitcoin goes to zero, maybe this one won't. We recently had a very crazy thing that happened with Luna. So many people lost money with Luna, the cryptocurrency. And so if somebody was heavily into Luna, that sector of their portfolio, hopefully that wasn't their entire portfolio, but let's say that was just one sector of their portfolio, right? If that sector did not do so well, hey, at least, he was holding this, or he was holding that coin, and this coin grew, and he has liquidity pools over here. So he's making other money within that sector that covered his loss and made him a net profit, and that prevented this specific cryptocurrency sector from affecting his entire portfolio. And that's how you properly diversify your risk, both externally and internally. It's important to have both because that's how you protect yourself from experiencing a total loss. Hope you guys found this valuable. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you all in the next video.